Welcome, YouTubers, to another episode in my Grammar Hero series. In this video, I'm going to work out 40 practice test questions that should closely mirror what you should expect to see in the Arithmetic Reasoning subtest of the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, that is the ASVAB, as well as the pre-screening Internet Delivered Computer Adaptive Test, that is the PiCAT. As a quick reminder, the actual arithmetic reasoning subtest of the ASVAB and PiCAT is only 16 questions long, and you cannot use a calculator or a reference sheet while you take that test. In order to get the most from this video, of course, you'll want to read the question, pause the video and attempt to solve the question on your own, and then resume playing the video to check your solution. In my opinion, the vast majority of you will pass this test on your first try, as long as you spend a few days to a month studying for it. Likewise, there are playlists on my channel for everything you need to know about this test. And for those two reasons, I do not recommend that you spend more than $30 on test prep. And with all that finally being said, let's go ahead and get started with this video. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says a clothing store has 80 shirts for sale, 10% are white, 30% are blue, and the rest are red. How many red t-shirts does the store have for sale? So let's figure out what percent of the shirts for sale are red. So we'll take our 100%, we'll subtract out 10%, and we'll subtract out 30%, and the remaining are going to be red. Again, you should see that this is 40%. 100 minus 40 is going to be 60. So 60% of the shirts are red. So now we got to do 80 times 60%, which is zero point 0.6 in decimal form. Move this decimal one place to the right. This becomes 80 times 6, albeit with one decimal to move back into our answer. This is 48. Bring our one decimal back in. We can see that the answer is going to be B, 48 shirts are red. This arithmetic reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT says this. Five people who work 8 hours per day can assemble 400 toys in a 5-day work week. What is the average number of toys assembled per hour per person? So we have five people, they work 8 hours a day, and they work 5 days a week. By doing 5 times 8 times 5, we'll figure out how many hours they're working per week combined. That's 5 times 8, which is 40. 40 times 5 is 200. So for a 5-day work week, they're all working 200 hours. For that entire week, they produce 400 toys. So if we do 400 divided by 200, this will tell us how many uh, toys they're making per hour per person. Cross out these corresponding zeros. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So in other words, each person makes an average of 2 toys per hour. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says a pizza was cut into 12 equal pieces. A person who eats 1/3 of a piece ate what fraction of the total pizza? So first and foremost, you have to visualize a pizza. When you cut it into twelfths, each piece of pizza is 1/12 of the total pie. And now we're just going to translate this little statement right here to solve this one. A person who eats 1/3 of a piece. Well, we know a piece is 1/12. 1/3 of a piece of in math means multiply. So we're going to multiply 1/12 by 1/3 to get our answer. 1 times 1 is 1. 12 times 3 is 36. So someone who eats 1/3 of a piece of pizza eats the 1/36th of the total pizza. Solve this arithmetic reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT. It says if 35 of the 140 cars delivered to a dealership were blue, what percent of the cars were blue? So let's start by expressing this as a fraction. Again, 35 of the 140 cars delivered were blue. You should know that fractions can be converted to decimals and then expressed as percents pretty quickly. But let's start by reducing this fraction as much as possible. You should see that 140 and 35 have a common factor of 7. Specifically, 35 divided by 7 is 5. Likewise, 140 divided by 7 is 20. We could reduce this even more since these have a common factor of 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 20 divided by 5 is 4. You got to know that the decimal equivalent of 1/4 is 0.25, which is the same thing as 25%. So the answer to this one is C, 25%. ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says a folding chair sells for $29.50. How much money is saved if the chair is bought at a 20% discount? So in other words, we want to calculate our savings. So in this sales price formula, All we need to do is take our original price and multiply it by the discount amount. So that's going to be 29.50 times the discount amount, which is 20%, our zero point 0.2 in decimal form. All right, we got to shift our decimals. We're going to shift our decimal place twice here and once here for a total of 3 times. So this is 2950 with no decimal times 2 with no decimal. Once we work that out, we'll shift our decimal back in 3 places. 0 times 2 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10, carry a 1. 9 times 2 is 18, 19, carry a 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Shift our decimal 3 places, 1, 2, 3. So the total that we would save would be 590, which is answer choice B. Of this arithmetic reasoning practice test question, we're comparing the list price of an item, which is $400, with the cost of buying the same item using a payment plan. First things first, we're told that we have to put 25% of the list price down for a down payment. So we're going to do 1/4, which is the same thing as 25% times 400. Again, if you place 400 over 1, we can cross reduce this. 4 goes into 4 one time, 4 goes into 400 100 times. This is 100 times 1, or just 100. So our down payment is $100. Next, we're told that we have 12 monthly payments of $30. So we'll multiply that out. That's 06003. That's going to be 360, of course. So in total, the payment plan is going to cost us 360 plus 100 are $460. Clearly, that is $60 more than the list price. Again, 460 minus 400 is C6. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says the jacket originally cost $120. There's a 20% discount on the jacket. What is the final price of the jacket after the discount? So I refer to that final price as the sales price. That's going to be equal to the original price of the jacket minus the original price of the jacket times the discount amount. What is the original price of the jacket? According to the problem, that's $120 minus $120. What is the discount amount? It's 20%. So you could use the decimal equivalent 0.2 if you like working with decimals, or you can use the fractional equivalent of 1/5. I'm going to use 1/5 in this case because it makes the math much easier to do. I'm going to place this over 1 so I can cross reduce. 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 goes into 120 24 times. So this becomes 120 minus 24 over 1 is just 24 times 1 over 1 is just 1. 24 times 1 is just 24. 120 minus 24 is going to be 96. So the correct answer to this one is C, 96. ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says the cell phone is on sale for 10% off. If the sale price is $900, what is its original price? So the way you want to think about this one is like this. $900 is equal to, again, there was a 10% discount. So it's going to be equal to 90%, or 0.9 as a decimal, and math is multiply its original price. So to solve for original price, we're just going to divide both sides by zero point 0.9, of course. This crosses out, leaving you with the original price over here. Again, we don't want to divide using a decimal, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to move this decimal over here to make this 9. And there's technically a decimal right here. Let's move this one place to the right and add a 0 placeholder. So this becomes 9,000 divided by 9, which is simply 1,000. So the original price of this cell phone was C. For this arithmetic reasoning practice test question, the first thing we have to do is convert our ounces and pounds to be just in terms of ounces. There are 16 pounds in every ounce. 2 times 16 is 32, plus 3 is 35. So our package weighs 35 ounces. According to the problem, we're charged $1.50 for the first 6 ounces. So subtract 6 ounces out. And of course, we're told that it cost 5 cents for everything else. So we'll do 29 times 0.05, shift our decimal 2 times to the right. This is just 29 times 5 with 2 decimals to move. 9 times 5 is 45, carry a 4, 10, 14, bring our 2 decimals back in. So it's going to cost $1.50 for the first 6 ounces and $1.45 for the remaining 29 ounces. That's 592. So it's going to cost be $2.95 to mail this package. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says an electrician charges a flat fee of $35 per service call plus $25 per hour for the work he performs at a customer's house. If he did a service call that took 3 hours, how much was the customer's bill? So the bill is going to be equal to his flat fee, which we know is $35, plus his hourly rate, which is $25 per hour, times the time he spent working. And in this case, he spent 3 hours working. So this is going to be 35 plus 25 times 3, which is 75. If you can't do this part mentally, do it off to the side. We have 35 plus 75. 5 plus 5 is 10, so bring down a 0, carry a 1. 3 plus 7 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So the customer's total bill is going to be $110, which is answer choice B, of course. ASVAB PiCAT Arithmetic Reasoning Practice Test question. We're trying to figure out what a 3.7% increase is in 1550 rent per month. So to get started, we're going to multiply 1550 by 0.037, which is 3.7% as a decimal. Move this decimal place 3 times to the right to make this 1550 times 37, albeit with 3 decimals to move back into the left. 0 times 7 is 0. This is 35. Carry a 3, that's 38. Carry a 3, that's 10. We have to add a 0 placeholder. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry a 1, 16. Carry a 1, that's 4. Let's add this all up. This is 0, 5, 13. Carry a 1, 7. 5, bring in our 3 decimals, 1, 2, 3. Let's add this to 1550. So that's going to be 5735. So this adds up to 35. Drop down our decimal, 7. That's 10, carry a 1, 6, 1. So this is D160735. This ASVAB PiCAT Arithmetic Reasoning Practice Test question says, how many feet of fence is needed to enclose a garden that is square and has an area of 144 square feet? So in this case, we're given the area of a square and we're being asked to find out its perimeter. And we want to know how many feet of fence we need to enclose this square. In other words, we're going to have to add up all of its sides. That's the same thing as finding its perimeter. Perimeter of a square is 4s, that is 4 times one of its side lengths. The area of the square is s squared, that is its side length squared. We know the area of our square is 144. This equals s squared. To get s by itself, we can take the square root of both sides. This crosses out, leaving you with s equals the square root of 144 is 12. Now that we know what s is, we can plug it in right here. 4 times 12 is 48. So the perimeter is going to be 48 feet. That's how much fence we need to enclose this square garden. For this ASVAB PiCAT Arithmetic Reasoning Practice Test question, we know 1/6 of the students are in 5th grade, 1/3 are in 4th grade, and a quarter of the remaining students are in 2nd grade. Let's first figure out how many students are in 4th and 5th grade. Just add 1/6 and 1/3. If you can't do that, mentally go ahead and find a common denominator, which is 6. This is 3 over 6, which reduces to 1/2. So 1/2 of the students are in 4th or 5th grade, which means 1/2 of the students are in some other grade. So let's figure out what 1/2 of 96 is. Again, if you can't do that mentally, just multiply straight across. It's 96 over 2, which becomes 48. So 48 of the students are in some other grade apart from 4th and 5th. Now we know that a quarter of those students are in 2nd grade. So this becomes 48 over 4, which is 12. So 12 of the students are in 2nd grade A. This arithmetic reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT says a family wants to arrive at the airport at 1:10 a.m. If it takes 45 minutes to drive to the airport, 30 minutes to get ready to leave, what time should the family wake up? So we're going to work backwards. They want to get there at 1:10 a.m. It takes them 30 minutes to get ready to leave. So let's go back 30 minutes from 1:10. That's going to be 12:40 a.m. So we just subtracted our 30 minutes out. Now, all we have to do is subtract out our 45 minutes. Now, it might be easier to do it this way. Let's subtract 40 from 12:40 a.m. We subtract 40, that takes us right to 12 a.m. And then we have those 5 more minutes to go. 12 a.m. minus 5 minutes is 11:55 p.m., which is answer choice A in this case. ASVAB PiCAT Arithmetic Reasoning Practice Test question says Mike is painting vertical stripes on one of the walls of his daughter's bedroom. If he paints stripes that are each 6 inches wide and the wall is 12 feet long, how many stripes can he paint on the wall? So to figure this one out, we're going to do 12 feet, that is the length of the wall, divided by 6 inches, that is the width of each of the stripes. That said, we have to convert these feet to inches so that these are both the same units. Again, there are 12 inches in every foot. So to convert 12 feet to inches, we do 12 times 12, which you should know is 144. So this is 144 inches. divided by 6 inches. We can cross out these units now that they're the same. And if you can't do 144 divided by 6 mentally, you could do it using long division. 6 goes into 14 two times without going over. That's going to be 12. This is 2. Drop down this 4. 6 times 4 is exactly 24, so there is no remainder. In other words, you can paint C 24 stripes. For this arithmetic reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT, we're going to make use of the distance formula. D equals RT. We know he has to cover 12 miles. He's walking at a rate of 2.5 miles per hour. We're solving for T. Divide both sides by 2.5 to get T by itself. This crosses out, leaving you with T on this side. As you can see, T is 12 divided by 2.5. Decimal outside the division bar means shift the decimal one time here, shift it a corresponding number of times here, add a 0 placeholder. This becomes 120 divided by 25, which is very easy to do. 25 times 4 is 100. This becomes 20. 25 doesn't go into 20. We have to add a decimal and a 0 placeholder, bring that decimal in the answer, drop that down. 25 times 8 is exactly 200 with no remainder. So T in this case is 4.8 hours, which is answer choice D. ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says a computer chip can process 6,000 gigabytes of data in 20 minutes. A second chip can process 15,000 gigabytes in 60 minutes. How many more gigabytes per minute will the faster chip process than the slower chip? So the first thing we have to do is convert both of these to be in terms of minutes. To do that, I'm going to do 6,000 divided by 20 and 15,000 divided by 60. Again, we can cross out these corresponding zeros. 600 divided by 2 is 300. So this computer chip does 300 gigabytes per minute. Cross out these corresponding zeros. What is 150 divided by 6? Well, that's going to be 25. Therefore, 1500 divided by 6 is going to be 250. How many more gigabytes does the faster chip process? Well, that's going to be 300 minus 250 are 50. So this one is going to be C. For this ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question, we're comparing the volume of two rectangular prisms. So I'm going to write down that formula twice. That's length times width times height. Of course, the volume of this first box is going to be 5 times 5 times 4. 5 times 5 is 25 times 4 is 100, so its volume is 100. According to the problem, the volume of the second box is twice the volume of this first box. 100 times 2 is 200. We don't know what its length is. That's what we're going to be solving for. Its width, according to the problem, is 5, and its height is 10. This becomes 200 equals 5 times 10 is 50, so this is 50L. Again, we're solving for L, so divide both sides by 50. Now this crosses out, leaving you with L over here. Cross out these corresponding zeros. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So this one is B, 4 units. For this ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question, we're going to translate these statements into an equation that we can then solve. We know gas in California is 3.45 per gallon. That's equal to 150%, which is 1.5 in decimal form, of the cost of diesel in Florida. We don't know that, so call that X. So all we're going to do is solve this one-step equation for X by dividing both sides by 1.5. So we got to do 3.45 divided by 1.5. Can't have a decimal outside the division bracket, so shift the decimals a corresponding number of times to make this 34.5 divided by 15. Bring our decimal into our answer. This is 230. Subtract this is 4. Drop down our 5. 15 times 3 is 45 with no remainder. So it's going to cost B $2.30 per gallon for diesel in Florida. For this arithmetic reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT, trying to figure out how many floorboards, which are 2.25 inches wide each, are needed to cover an area or a floor that is 15 feet wide. So the first thing we have to do is convert our 15 feet to be in terms of inches. There's 12 inches in 1 foot. 15 times 12 is 180. Now this becomes 180 inches divided by 2.25. Let's convert 2.25 to an improper fraction so we can do this. That's 4 times 2, 8 plus 1 is 9, so this is 9 over 4. Now we're dividing with fractions, so follow the algorithm, keep, change, flip. We're going to keep 180 the same, but I'm going to place it over 1 to make it a fraction. We're going to change from division to multiplication. Then we're going to flip this to be 4 over 9. Cross reduce, 9 goes into 9 one time. 9 goes into 18 two times, so it goes into 180 20 times. 20 over 1 is 20. 4 over 1 is 4. 20 times 4 is 80, so you're going to need D, 84 boards. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says how many monthly payments must be made to repay an interest-free loan of $1,664 if the monthly payment is $52. So in this case, we're going to do some simple long division. We're going to do 1664 and we're going to divide that by 52. 52 doesn't go into 1, doesn't go into 16. It does, however, go into 166 three times. 52 times 3, if you can't do it mentally, is going to be 615. So 156. Let's go ahead and subtract this out. This is simply going to be 10. And now we can drop down our 4. 52 times 2 is exactly 104 with no remainder. So in other words, you're going to have to make 32 monthly payments of $52 to repay the loan of $1,664. ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question. We're trying to figure out how much it's going to cost to carpet a room that's 12 feet by 15 feet if carpeting's 1150 per square yard. This is a conversion problem given a cost in terms of square yards and dimensions in terms of feet. So we're going to have to convert these feet to yards by dividing them by 3. Since there are 3 feet in every yard, 12 divided by 3 is 4, so 12 feet is 4 yards. 15 divided by 3 is 5 yards. 4 times 5 is 20 square yards. Now that we know the area of our room, we can multiply that by the cost. Move this decimal 2 times to the right to make this 1150 times 20, albeit with 2 decimals to move back into the left. 0 times these 4 is going to give you 4 zeros. Before we start multiplication with this 2, we have to add a 0 placeholder. 2 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10, so bring down a 0, carry a 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, and 2 times 1 is 2. Add this all up. This is 00032. Bring in our 2 decimals, 1, 2. So this one is A. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question. We have a jet flying at 21,000 feet above sea level, and it's landing at a runway according to the problem that's 3,000 feet above sea level. We want to know how long it's going to take to land if it descends at a rate of 600 feet per minute. So the first thing we have to figure out is how much vertical space it's going to travel. It's going from 21,000 to 3,000 feet. So that's going to be 21,000 minus 3,000 or 18,000 feet. So in other words, it's descending 18,000 feet. If it descends at a rate of 600 feet per minute, we can figure out how long it's going to take to land by doing 18,000 divided by 600. Make this math much simpler by crossing out these corresponding zeros. This becomes 180 divided by 6, while 18 divided by 6 is 3, and just tack on that 0. In other words, it's going to take this plane 30 minutes to land. For this arithmetic reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT, we have to find the area of the shaded region in this figure. As you can see, we have a rectangle, which is length times width, minus 2 circles, which is going to be 2 for each of the circles, times pi r squared. Of course, let's go ahead and plug those values in. This becomes 20 times 10 minus 2 times pi. The radius is right here. It's 5, so this is 5 squared. This becomes 200 minus 5 squared is 25 times 2 is 50, so this is minus 50 pi. So for pi, we're going to use 3.14. This would be 50 times 3.14. I'm going to let you work that out on your own. That said, I know that that becomes 157. 200 minus 157 is 43. So the answer to this one is C, 43. ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says Jerry earns a weekly salary of $250 plus $5 for every sale he makes. How many sales must he make in order to earn $765 per week? So let's translate these statements into an equation that we can then solve. And he makes $250 plus $5 times the number of sales he makes a week, which is unknown, call it X. This is going to equal 765. So all we have to do is solve this equation for X. Let's do that by subtracting 250 from both sides to get started. 5 minus nothing is 5. 6 minus 5 is 1. 7 minus 2 is 5. Again, divide both sides by 5 now to get X by itself. 515 divided by 5 is 103. If you couldn't do that mentally, do the long division off to the side. 515 divided by 5. 5 goes into 5 one time. This is 0, drop down this 1. 5 does not go into 1, so add a 0 there. Drop down this 5. 5 times 3 is 15 with no remainder. This arithmetic reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT says on Monday the water was shut off 3 times for a quarter of an hour. 2/3 of an hour, and 2 and 3/4 hours, respectively. How long in total was the water turned off? So to solve this one, we have to add all these together. The easiest way to do this one is to start by adding 1/4 and 2 and 3/4. Again, 1/4 and 3/4 is just one. And if you can't see that, do it off to the side. 3/4 plus 1/4 becomes 4/4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. All right, so 1/4 and 2 and 3/4 becomes 3 plus 2/3. Now we could just add these like so. This becomes 3 and 2/3. So to answer this question, the water was turned off C, 3 and 2/3 hours in total. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says a rectangular gas tank is filled up at a rate of 40 cubic inches per minute. If the tank is 10 inches long, 10 inches wide, and 4 inches tall, how many minutes will it take to fill the tank? So we know our gas tank is in the shape of a rectangular prism. Therefore, its volume is length times width times height. That's going to be 10 by 10 by 4. 10 times 10 is 100 times 4 is 400. So we know we have a gas tank that is 400 cubic inches, and we know we can fill it up at a rate of 40 cubic inches a minute. So by doing this division, we'll figure out how long it takes to fill up. These units cross out. We can cross out one of these corresponding zeros. 40 divided by 4 is 10. So in other words, it's going to take C 10 minutes to fill up this gas tank. This arithmetic reasoning practice test question for the ASVAB and PiCAT says this: if the population of a certain city increased 25% in 2 years, the new population is what percent of the old population? So the key to working out a problem like this is to come up with your own numbers that are very easy to work with. So for example, I'm going to say the old population was 100 people. Well, according to the problem, the new population increased by 25%. So we increased by 25% here. Well, what is a 25% increase of 100? Well, 25% of 100 is 25. Of course, 100 plus 25 is 125. So we know the population went from 100 to 125 people. What percent is that of the old population? Well, that's going to be 125 divided by 100, which is 1.25. And you should know that 1.25 is the same thing as 125%. The answer to this one is D. For this ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question, we're going to be comparing the volume of two boxes. Again, boxes are rectangular prisms. So we're going to find their volume using length times width times height. According to the problem, the lengths and widths of these boxes are the same, and the height of the second box is half the height of the first box. So let's go ahead and plug these in. This one is 10, 5, and 10. This one has the same length and width, so it's going to be 10, 5, but its height is going to be half of the first box. That one's 10, so this one's going to be 5. 10 times 10 is 100, times 5 is 500. So this volume is 500 cubic inches. 5 and 5 is 25, times 10 is 250. So this one is 250 cubic inches. 500 minus 250, you should know, is going to be 250. In other words, this first box holds 250 more cubic inches than the second box. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question, we're going to use the average formula. We know the student needs an average of a 90 for an A. Here are all of her other test grades. Her finals were 2 test grades, so we'll call that X and X. Divide this by the number of test grades. All right, so all we have to do is solve for X now. So multiply both sides by 6 to get started. This becomes 540 equals, and if you add up all these right here, you should get 342 plus 2x. All right, subtract 342 from both sides. This leaves you with 2x over here. This is going to be 198. Divide both sides by 2 now. This crosses out, leaving you with just x on this side. 198 divided by 2. This is going to be 918. Drop down that 8. This is going to be 9 with no remainder. So in other words, she needs a 99 on her final to get an A in this class. ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says there are 9 red and 6 green marbles in a bag. Child reaches in the bag and randomly takes one marble. What is the probability of that child getting a green marble? So for this one, you have to understand some basic probability. The probability of that child selecting a green marble is going to be equal to the desired outcome, the green marble. Well, there are 6 of those in the bag. divided by the total number of possible outcomes. Well, there are 9 red and 6 green in the bag. So the probability of getting a green one is going to be 6 out of 9 plus 6 is going to be 15. Again, we want to express this as a percent. So let's reduce this by a common factor of 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 15 divided by 3 is going to be 5. What is 2 fifths as a percent? Well, think about it this way. Let's multiply this by 2 and this by 2. This becomes 4 over 10. 4 over 10 is 0.4 or 40%. So this one is D, 40%. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says how many 5-pound bags of apples can be made from 1,600 apples if each apple weighs a quarter of a pound? So we have 1,600 apples. To figure out how much those weigh in total, we're going to multiply that by the weight of one apple, that is a quarter of a pound. Write 1,600 as a fraction by placing it over 1. Now cross reduce. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 1,600 400 times. 400 over 1 is just 400 times 1 over 1, that's just 1. 400 times 1 is 400. So we have 400 pounds of apples. Again, each bag is going to have 5 pounds in it. So to figure out how many bags we're going to have in total, we're going to do this division. Cross out our units. 40 divided by 5 would be 8. Just tack on that 0. So we're going to have 85-pound bags of apples. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says a photograph is 6 inches long and 4 inches wide. If it is enlarged to 9 inches long, how wide will it be? So for this one, we could use a proportion to solve it. Again, we could say the length of this photograph, 6 inches, over its width, 4 inches, is going to be equal to or proportional to its new length and width. That is 9 inches over its new width, which is unknown. We'll call that x. This becomes 4 times 9, which is 36, equals 6 times x, or 6x. Divide both sides by 6 now to get x by itself. This says x equals 36 over 6, which is just 6. So its new width is 6 inches. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question, we're told that a mechanic has a garage that's in the shape of a square and currently has a perimeter of 80 feet. He's shopping for a new garage and he found one that has twice the area of his current garage. We want to know how many square feet that new garage is. So for this one, we're going to need the perimeter formula and the area formula for a square. That is, perimeter equals 4s and area equals s squared. We know the perimeter of his current garage is 80, and we can solve for s by dividing both sides by 4. This crosses out, leaving us with s over here. 80 divided by 4 is 20. Now that we know what s is, we can plug it in right here. This becomes 20 squared. 20 squared is the same thing as 20 times 20, or 400. So his current garage has an area of 400 square feet. If the new garage has twice that area, we do 400 times 2. It's going to be 800 square feet, which is answer choice C in this case. ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says Jack and Jill shared in a $1 million estate. If Jack received 150,000 and Jill the rest, what fraction of the estate did Jill receive? So to answer this one, we're going to take the $1 million estate and we're going to subtract out Jack's portion, which is $150,000. And in doing so, we'll figure out how much Jill received. This is 0, 0, 0. This is 0. 0 minus 5 we can't do. We have to borrow. This is going to become 0. This would be 10. This become 9. This will become 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 1 is 8. So Jill received 850,000 of the $1 million estate. Let's reduce this fraction by crossing out these corresponding zeros. This becomes 85 over 100, both of which have a common factor of 5 that we can reduce by. 85 divided by 5 is 17. 100 divided by 5 is 20. So this one is going to be C, 17 over 20. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says Anderson made copies from 11:40 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. If he was paid at a rate of $12 per hour, how much did he earn that day for copying? So we have to figure out how long he worked for. From 11:40 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. is 50 minutes. If you couldn't solve that mentally, you could always do it like so. You could do 11:40 to 11:50 is 10 minutes, and so on and so forth. When you count all that up, you would get 50 minutes. So Anderson worked for 50 minutes. Of course, there are 60 minutes in an hour. So in other words, he worked for 5/6 of an hour, and we're going to multiply that by his hourly rate of $12. Place this over 1, cross reduce. 6 goes into 6 one time, 6 goes into 12 two times, 5 over 1 is just 5. 2 over 1 is just 2. 5 times 2 is 10, so he made B $10. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says the size of a rectangular TV is the length of its diagonal. If a TV is 5 inches wide and 12 inches long, what is the size of the TV? So when you put a diagonal on a rectangle, what you create are two right triangles, and you can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the length of the diagonal. Pythagorean theorem says a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b are the legs, and c, of course, is your hypotenuse. So we're going to be solving this for C. I'm going to let A be 12 and B be 5. This becomes 12 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. This is 144 plus 25 equals C squared. This is 169 equals C squared. To get C by itself, we take the square root of both sides. This crosses out, leaving you a C. The square root of 169 is 13. So the length of the diagonal of this TV is 13. Therefore, we would say this is a 13-inch TV. This ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question says the odds of rolling a certain number on a single die is 1 chance in 6 rolls. During a game, someone rolled 2 fives. According to the odds, how many times must that person have thrown the die? So your odds are 1 in 6, and this person got 2 fives. Well, what's that look like in reality? That means they rolled the dice, they didn't get a 5, didn't get a 5, didn't get a 5, got a 5, didn't get a 5, didn't get a 5. This is your 1 5 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rolls. Again, let's just repeat this again. Let's say they didn't get a 5, they got a 5. That means they didn't get a 5, didn't get a 5, didn't get a 5, didn't get a 5. Again, they got a 5 here, and that's 1 out of 6. How many times did they throw the dice in total? At 6 and 6, or 12 times. For this ASVAB PiCAT arithmetic reasoning practice test question, we're working with squares. Specifically, we're working with perimeter, which is 4s, 4 times the side length, and area, which is s squared, that is the side length squared. According to the problem, we know that her current office has a perimeter of 44 feet. So in place of p there, we'll do 44 equals 4s. We can solve for s by dividing both sides by 4. This crosses out, leaving you with s on this side. 44 divided by 4 is 11. So now that we know what s is, we can plug it in here. This becomes 11 squared, which you should know is 121. The question is this: if her current office has an area of 121 square feet, what is double that? So you could do 121 times 2. That's 242. So her bigger office would have an area of 242 square feet. A boat goes twice as fast downstream as it can go upstream, and two-thirds as fast upstream as it can go in calm water. If it goes 40 miles per hour downstream, how long will it take to travel 60 miles in calm water? So, at first glance, you're probably saying to yourself, well, I'm probably going to need the distance formula to solve this one, since there are some key words that are prompting me to think about the distance formula. Again, the distance formula is distance equals rate times time. And what elements of the distance formula do we have right here? How long is in reference to time? To travel 60 miles, well, 60 miles is a distance in calm water. Well, we need to know the rate of the boat in calm water. So we do have all the elements of the distance formula, as you can now see. That said, in order to figure out the rate of the boat in calm water, we're going to have to work backwards here. Again, we're given information about the boat as it travels downstream, which I'm going to call DS, upstream, which I'm going to call US, and in calm water, which I'm going to call C. More specifically, right here, we're told that it goes 40 miles per hour downstream. In addition, we're told right here that it goes twice as fast downstream as it can go upstream. In other words, this 40 miles per hour is twice as fast as it goes upstream, while 20 miles per hour times 2 is 40. All right, so now we figured out how fast it goes downstream and upstream. Let's try to figure out its rate in calm water. And in order to figure out its rate in calm water, we're going to use this information right here. It goes two-thirds as fast upstream as it can go in calm water. In other words, this 20 miles per hour is going to be equal to two-thirds of its rate in calm water. So in order to figure out what C is, we're going to just get rid of this two-thirds by multiplying both sides of this small equation by its reciprocal. This crosses out, leaving you with C on this side. Let's do this math right here. We're multiplying two fractions, so we're going to multiply straight across. 3 times 20 is going to be 60. 2 times 1 is 2. 60 divided by 2 is just 30. So the rate of the boat in calm water is 30 miles per hour. So now we have all the information we need to solve this one using the distance formula. All right, so let's start plugging things in. Again, we know the boat traveled a distance of 60 miles, so we'll put 60 in for D. We now know that its rate in calm water is going to be 30 miles per hour, so we'll plug in 30 for R, and this is times T. All we're doing is dividing both sides by 30 to get T by itself. This crosses out, leaving you a T over here. 60 divided by 30 is 2. In other words, it's going to take this boat 2 hours to cover 60 miles. So this one is C.
こんにちは。